long time no story time. I thought I would tell a little story about all the times that I've almost been arrested in Japan. Now you're probably looking at how I'm dressed and saw the thumbnail and the title and you're like, oh yeah, just another foreigner going to Japan and doing stupid shit. But actually, getting thrown in jail in Japan is pretty easy. Like, I see it on Reddit quite a lot where people's families are like, I'm looking for my son, like he disappeared 2 days ago and we can't get hold of him, he's in Tokyo. And then the comments are like, he's been arrested. I've never been arrested, but I feel like I've come close, and these are some of the stories I'll share where I guess that almost happened. I know people that have been arrested in Japan, and trust me, it's not fun. Japan's one country you really don't want to get arrested in. So yeah, I was going to introduce my boyfriend to my friends, and we were going to go to a club in Shibuya. So we went to the club. I believe it was Womb, maybe, or I think Womb or Atom, I forget. So we was in the club, and it was pretty normal, and he, I guess, drank a little bit too much. I'm not sure. It was a pretty normal experience. I introduced him to my friends, and it was, I don't know, just very, very normal. He was a pretty big guy, actually. He was very, very tall and also quite wide, so I keep this in mind. So anyways, I was like, okay, it's been fun, let's leave. So I went to get myself out of the locker, and this Japanese guy came up to me and kind of like tried to like kabe on me or lean against the lockers, and he's like, hey, what you doing, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, I'm here with my boyfriend, sorry. And then as my boyfriend walked in, this guy said, oh, I don't mind. And then my boyfriend was like, what the fuck, that's my girlfriend. To which the guy replied, it's okay, like in Japanese, the equivalent of, it's okay bro, we can share her. And then I honestly I've never seen this guy get mad even. He just punched this guy straight up in the face. Just like straight up punch this guy. And it's wild because I'm from England, and I'm from a hometown that's pretty famous for clubs, and I went clubbing a lot in England, and I've never seen this happen in like a British club, which is kind of famous for this. So I was shocked. Anyway, they started fighting. The security guard came and they pulled all of us into like this room under the club, and it had like a cage. Like this was kind of like a jail actually. It was like and then they were like interrogating them one by one. It was one of the most ridiculous experiences I've ever had. And now I'm pretty new to Japan at this point, and I was just my first time seeing my boyfriend do anything like this, so I was just very in disbelief. Honestly, the club handled this so badly. Like, I cannot believe how badly they handled this. They spoke to him for a while and then got them to both agree to like kiss and make up or whatever. And then for some fucking reason, they kicked us all of us out of the club at the same time. So we're all outside of the club in the street, and I think it's like 3 a.m. and it's quite busy, and it's on a road with like cars that are coming sporadically. And I don't know, the guy said something again to my boyfriend, and my boyfriend punched him again, and they were like street fighting in this like fucking Tekken. And like cars are like avoiding them, and I'm like, oh my god, because my boyfriend wasn't small, he was quite big, and the other guy was also quite big, so it was just like everyone was looking, and I was like, are my friends still here? Are they seeing this? It was so embarrassing. Anyway, so like the staff said they called the police, and the police were coming, and I just flagged down a taxi, and I got in the taxi, and I didn't realize that my boyfriend at the time joined me, and then we left. I'm like, oh my god, we would have got so close. If the police had arrived, we would have got arrested. Like, no way, you can't be doing that in Japan. I was disgusted, like, what the hell? Like, obviously we broke up shortly after that because Jesus Christ. It just was so left field. Like, it just wasn't at all like the person I thought that I was dating. It was very, very, very strange, very extreme. And just seeing these two guys like fighting in the street in Shibuya was pretty funny. Lucky we managed to leave before the police arrived. So the next story is a little bit different. This one's kind of sad actually. I also mentioned this in another video, but I was doing a photo shoot for ACDC Rag, and they were releasing like cosplay, and I think I modeled a bunch of cosplay, and the last one I modeled was Harley Quinn. And then I lived not too far from the office, so I was like, oh, I didn't even like remove the makeup or whatever. It was late. I was like, I'll just go home, crawl in the shower. So I left, got back to my home station, which is pretty close. And on the way home, I hear someone shouting, like a woman's voice in Japanese, and she's shouting, help me, he's gonna kill me. Like, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I look up and I see a woman in her window, like an apartment, and someone slamming her head against the glass. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I look around I'm like, fuck, what do I do? And eventually, like, a Japanese guy, like a jogger, is jogging past, and he sees it, and it's like, what the fuck? So we run and we're like banging on the door, and we're trying to get whoever's inside to open, but they're not opening it. And the whole time she's screaming like, he's gonna kill me, and we can hear her head being slammed on the glass. And the jogger said, like, I don't have my phone on me. And I'm like, I have my phone, you should call them because, you know, you're Japanese. So he called them, and the police ended up coming. Now this is the wild part. This is the closest I've ever been to getting arrested. But the police came, and all the while, like, you can hear the women shouting and screaming for help. The two police, the first thing they did was they approached me. And then they said, the first question they asked me was, what airport did you arrive in? I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I don't know. Like, please, there's a woman that's being, like, hurt quite badly. You need to help her. And they're like, what airport did you arrive in? I'm like, Narita. I've been here for this amount of time, blah, 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 blah. And they was asking me all these questions. I'm like, okay, but please help her. And they seem very more interested in me than what the fuck was going on with the woman. And I realized that at that time, my visa was being renewed. So I didn't have my Zari card on me, like my foreigner card. And I honestly, like, it was just going to model and come back very close to my house, so I didn't really take that much stuff. And normally I'd have my Zari card on me, but because it was being renewed, I didn't. They give you like a piece of paper that's in your passport, and I didn't take my passport out with me because it was just like a few stations away. So yeah, I was like, I don't have it, but my visa documents, but they're at my house. So immediately, they just assumed that I was an illegal immigrant, I guess. So they're asking me a bunch of questions about that. And the whole time, the woman in the background is screaming. And then I guess at one point, her voice just stops. And then one of them, because there's two, one of them finally goes and knocks on the door. The guy who's hurting the woman opens the door, shouts to them like blah, 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 and slams the door again. And that was it. And then the police approached me again, and they're like, okay, who's that Japanese guy then? Because they're also talking with him. And I'm like, I don't know, just a random jogger. And they're like, I think it's really suspicious that you just meet this random guy in the street, and then you both decide to try and help this woman. I'm like, what do you, that's not suspicious at all. Like, I don't know this guy. I just gave him my phone to call the police. And they didn't really believe it. And then they're like, okay, you don't have your documents, so let's take you down to the station. And I'm like, absolutely not, because that would mean that they would probably put me in a cell. So I'm like, fucking no. I was like, my house is just over there. Let's go over there and get my documents. And they're like, no, we can't do that. We're gonna take you to the station. I'm like, no. So luckily, I think at the time my ex-boyfriend got back from work, so I called him, and he got my documents and ran them up the street and gave them to the police. And the police were like, fine, okay, whatever, you can go. But they're like, leave immediately. And I'm like, okay, but what about the women? And they're like, we want you to leave immediately. I'm like, okay. And I don't really know what happened. Like, I think about this a lot, because I think this happened around 8 or 9 years ago. So like, I think about the woman a lot, and I tried searching on the news. I didn't see anything about it, so I genuinely just hope she's okay. It was just so stupid, like the whole scenario. It seemed like they felt like it was easier for them to apprehend someone for not having their visa documents rather than the guy who was being violent. It just seemed like in their heads at the time, they were like, oh, this might be something that is like a surefire arrest for us. And they're thinking more of like numbers and the actual situation than the people involved. It was wild, honestly, and it made me really scared. And then the last one was just a regular interaction with the police. If you are a foreigner and you are in Japan, there will be a time probably where the police will ask to see your Zari card. It happens quite a lot. Or maybe they'll give you like a random search. Particularly in Shinjuku, which is where I lived, the police do random searches. So this is something that can happen. It just so happened that it happened... I was actually in Kabukicho, and it was because I was about to get a mammogram, and there was like a specific clinic, like a breast clinic, for getting that kind of like scan. And it just happened to be in Kabukicho, so I went there, and the police stopped me, and they asked me what I was doing in Kabukicho, because I think they assumed that I was doing like illegal hostess work. And I said, oh, I'm just going to go to the clinic, it's up the road. And then they didn't believe me, and then they're like, okay, what's in your bag? And I was like, jelly beans? And they're like, you don't expect us to believe that, do you? I'm like, no, like, because like when they took my bag and it made like a shaky noise. I think it sounded like maybe like medication. I'm like, no, there's this jelly bean brand called Poiful. And I'm like, I really like jelly beans, it's jelly beans. And they're like, well, we'll be the judge of that. And then they opened my bag and they rummaged through it, they took it out, and it was fucking jelly beans. And they were so disappointed, like the disappointment in their face was so funny. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna check your arms for needle marks, I guess, in case I was doing heroin or something. I'm like, okay. So like I went like that, they looked at my arms, there's nothing there, and they're like, fine. Oh, and the other thing they said is like, they're like, can we check your arms? Can we see your Zayu card? Can we check your bag? I'm like, okay, that's fine, like, hi, daijoubu desu. And then they're like, I guess they're like, nandemo daijoubu desu ne, like, oh, I guess anything's like okay for you. And I'm like, what do you mean? That made me actually feel really scared. I was like, what do you mean anything's okay? I'm like, I want to go to the clinic, like I'm trying to get out there, I'm not hiding anything. And that was probably the most uncomfortable interaction I had with the police. Because in Japan, there have been times when I asked the police for directions. They were really helpful. Once one of my friends went missing and they were quite helpful. So I've had very positive interactions with the police, but I think only this one, something about it made me feel like those police were bad. Like those two in specifically those two were bad. So that was the only time really I felt scared, because the two before that were just incompetent. But like these guys generally, I feel like they weren't good. But it's Shinjuku, so I guess it's to be expected. So yeah, those are the biggest ones I can remember. But of course, being here for 10 years, I have had like times where I've had to speak to the police. It's pretty normal. I have visited someone once when they were detained, and the detention center is an awful place. And yeah, like if you do get detained, like they don't feed you a whole lot. You're not allowed to wear underwear in case you hang yourself, because there are a lot of cases of immigrants who are detained and then they try to unalive themselves. So there's a lot of like rules like that. I think it's also like solitary confinement. It's very, very scary. So I think that if you are in Japan and if you live here or even a tourist, then please keep your documents on you and just be really, really careful, because after seeing this detention center was a big wake-up call for me that like, okay, definitely I don't want to go there. And whenever you talk about the police in any country, there will of course be people like, well, if you follow the law, then it's fine. And it's like, actually no, because I did know someone who, they ordered something online from China, and it arrived, and it didn't arrive because the police arrested them because they thought it was an illegal, something that you're not allowed to import. And so my friend was thrown in jail for like 2 months. And he wasn't allowed to contact anyone. Luckily, the Japanese family he was staying with fought for him and managed to get him out. But it actually turned out that the thing that they thought was illegal wasn't illegal. They got it mixed up with something else, and he was released. And they didn't even really apologize, but even though they arrested him for no reason. So I think it's very quick to just be like, oh, well, like if you just follow the rules, because sometimes it's not as easy as that. Like mistakes are made. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, if you have any questions about any of the stories, let me know. As always, thank you for watching, and please subscribe. Bye!